We have Chief Ayden, and we really appreciate you coming in and speaking in reference to the crime situation with. I know it involves all drugs, but we had talked specifically about the heroin and the opiate problem. And as many listeners probably heard Dr. Ames come on and kind of address the addiction problem, and I'm sure you can kind of speak to that to some degree. And I got some information. You had been great about getting Captain Ivy to send me some data, so I just wanted to kind of read over that real quick. The Greenville Police Department answered 86 calls for service for overdoses in 2013. Those calls for service are not broken down into types of overdoses, so you really don't know what they were taking and
which drug.
Yeah.
Correct, yeah.
So, which is very difficult to determine because I'm sure a lot of it's a cocktail of stuff, I would think. Is that true?
Absolutely.
It also does not include any overdoses that have been reported for, say, for instance, at Vidant or other urgent care facilities and not reported to the Greenville Police Department. And my question is that a lot of the HIPAA issues with things like that, or can y'all get the information, or you just have to know that it's an overdose?
HIPAA definitely keeps us from getting a lot of information, but a lot of times, someone will go directly to the hospital. The hospital treats and releases. So we won't even know. We don't have a mechanism for knowing. And
really, the only way you do know is that if the police are called in first, maybe somebody's having a situation and they're calling 911. I guess the ambulance comes first, or is that kind of a combined effort that everybody shows?
It's combined. Generally, here in Greenville, we arrive at around the same time. Our fire department's pretty well deployed, so we get there at the same time, and then they do the medical piece. But in years past, it was considered a medical issue, and they would take them and go and get treatment at the hospital. Now we are definitely tracking because we need to know where it's happening and how often it's happening.
And is there a certain
that it's illegal to use? I mean, if they're overdosing on illegal drugs, y'all need to know about it.
Yeah,
we do. I mean, and our focus really isn't the enforcement. It's just tracking sort of where these things are occurring, and if there's a bad batch that has come into our community, we really need to be aware of that. Because there's some heroin in other communities that is killing people at very high rates. Mm-hmm. Around Boston, Quincy, Mass., small towns around Boston, there are, in some cases, 20-plus overdoses a day with several fatalities. So it is a shocking problem.
Now, what about the new sort of drug that the what do you call it when it reverses the?
When you reverse it, that's Noxolone or Narcan.
Now, do y'all carry that, or is that just the EMTs?
No, the EMTs carry it, and we are testing that right now with deployment. So it's just coming in now. We've got free doses, and we want to see.
That's a huge.
It is. It can really help someone.
Yeah. How does that work, Chief? In that, so you're called to a home or a place or something where the person is clearly overdosed, and maybe they are unconscious or whatever. Now, does somebody have to be there that gives you approval to give this reversal drug, or how does that work? I mean, do you just make a on-the-spot decision? Do y'all have that?
No,
I mean, do y'all have
an
that?
On-the-spot decision because I mean,
just
there's
the
training.
EMTs will, and
there's training that goes with it. We are not EMTs, but if the call is for an overdose, there's evidence of an overdose having occurred, or someone tells you, then the Narcan, it's safe to give. I mean, I could take a dosage right now and it wouldn't do anything to me, but what it does is that reestablishes the breathing and reverses the overdose. So
it's fascinating.
I think it's going to be very helpful. I do think, though, that for us, the way that we are deployed, it's going to be less significant than in Pitt County. In Pitt County, they rely a lot out in the more rural areas on volunteer fire departments and fire departments that have longer distances to go. So it's, I think, critically important for the deputies to have that.
Sure. Is it expensive?
No, not particularly.
Really?
It's about $10 a dosage.
Oh, wow. That's definitely worth saving somebody's life.
Yeah, we got ours through a grant, so ours is no cost.
Wow.
What do you think it's going to do, though, if, and this may sound mean or whatever, but if you think, well, I can just take the drug. I mean, the reversal drug, if we get it into the hands of the bad guys too, then they're carrying it and they just think they're completely invincible, and the drug has no. I mean, don't we need to still fear? I mean, obviously fear what the drug can do to you.
Yeah, but I think that most people that are
They're well beyond that rationalization.
I don't even think that they're thinking
That's like
in
a
that way.
mom rationalization.
I
Yeah.
just think that they think that all's good and they're going to get high and
Yeah.
get through it like they have many times before. But again, if there's a bad batch, it really can impact a community in a very negative way.
Well, I'm sure 86 calls for services for overdoses in 20, that sounds bad. It doesn't sound really bad, but I know probably the reality of it is a lot more than that. And I know the crime problem, the arrest, that doesn't even address the arrest that y'all make. It's a totally different topic here. So let's kind of break it down from your perspective of the chief of Greenville. How bad is our problem with any drug abuse and illegal drugs coming into our community, the arrest and the crime that's associated with drugs, in particular, just drugs?
Well, I'd like to take it two levels up. So
Okay.
let's look at the national picture first. There's finally a very loud discussion happening at the White House level. And in early May, I went up with a group of 4 other police chiefs, members of the public health sector, and some researchers, and we met with the Office of National Drug Control Policy. That's the White House. That's the president's senior advisory
Staff.
group on drug policy. And the conversation went something along these lines.
Okay.
Of the war on drugs is not working. And
The what drug?
The war.
Well, exactly.
War on
The
drugs.
what
I'm
on
sorry,
drugs.
I thought you
Yeah.
said a specific drug. I'm
No,
sorry.
the war on drugs
Is not working. Yeah.
It's not working.
Just
That's
say
probably,
no is not. It's not.
It's
Yeah.
so
That
long
campaign
overdue.
is so old.
It's
Yeah.
so long overdue to hear that and to see national drug policy take a serious right turn. But the conversation was really more about taking a public health approach along with the criminal justice for distributors and the transportation, importation of narcotics. But we really need to talk about what's driving a lot of our local crime, and that's people that are addicted. So, treatment
Right.
comes to mind.
Right.
We spend $75 billion per year to incarcerate low-level drug offenders. $75 billion investment over 10 years would give our country, our nation, a very, very solid infrastructure for treatment.
Sure.
So if you look at the dollars and cents, it makes sense to begin that discussion. Now, I'm not soft on drugs. We need, there are certain offenses that absolutely we need to unleash all of the power of the criminal justice system to take care of it. But there are other low-level offenses that exploring the public health sector's suggestions may just make a lot of sense.
Wow.
I know we do the Crime Stoppers, and how helpful is that with breaking some of these cases of drug dealers and things like that?
For Crime Stoppers is better for like historical and things that have more evidence. These drug cases are very fast-moving, and by the time a tip comes in with
You've got
through
to
that,
move on it.
it's likely that it's not as fresh as what we need to go and get a search warrant. There's a lot of legal requirements. So for us, it's not a real tactic that we use.
And a lot of times you're looking at a lot of specifics as far as borders and
Jurisdictional lines,
Yeah.
absolutely. Although for us, we have the Greenville Regional Drug Task Force, which basically
that trumps everything else.
It does. I mean, we've
Yeah.
got DEA on there, so it's national. We've followed cases back to Mexico.
Yeah. Yeah.
So which brings me to an importation issue.
Yeah.
Some troubling news that I've learned over the last 4 or 5 months is that Mexico has begun to manufacture heroin in Mexico.
And let me stop you right there, because I'm just curious of a comparison, okay? And I'm so drawing a blank on that movie with Denzel Washington, and this was like in the 70s, and he started importing the heroin.
into New York.
Was it cocaine
American
or
Gangster.
heroin?
It
Thank
was,
you,
yeah.
American
That was
Gangster.
heroin.
And it was supposed to be pure. It was, and I don't know all the levels of heroin, thank goodness. But so in comparison to that, I don't know how much if you know about that, but like, is this more pure? Is it more like contaminant? I don't know what
No,
it is that.
This is why I think it's a serious issue, because it is pure. It is about 75% pure. Heroin in the past, and especially in the 70s, you might get 6 to 10%, and that was good. So now it is much more intense.
Is it more potent
And-
in
and
that
absolutely,
it just make like if
Yeah.
somebody did it one time and they have that addictive nature about them, they could be addicted.
Heroin hooks you very, very quickly. So it's much more potent, and it's a lot cheaper. So what a dosage would have been $20
And you
back
would
then,
think it
it's
would be
3 to
more
6.
expensive though.
It's not. Now it's manufactured basically in our backyard, and Mexico already has all the distribution lines through the blue highways.
They're already set up, yeah.
They own the distribution coming up. So for cocaine, heroin is just another
It's a no-brainer
another
for 'em.
product.
Yeah.
And now they don't have to get it from Southeast Asia across Europe and generally through Northern Europe on boats back down and then come across. Now they're manufacturing it, and it's ready to go. So I'm very alarmed by that.
Terrifying, really.
That's
And we've
so
had
scary.
cases with our drug task force where we've arrested Mexican nationals here in Greenville, and generally those drugs, cocaine, heroin, and methamphetamines, a lot less cocaine, mostly heroin and meth, were heading to the northern markets. They were not for distribution here. So we have kind of a crisscross. Here, mass volumes going through, and they might stop off here, but they're destined for Baltimore, Philadelphia, New York markets, Boston even.
They can get more money for it there too,
They
right?
do. It's repackaged, and then it is brought back down for local distribution. So it's a very complex area.
Which brings another sort of crime in that these kids that are not able to hold down a job because of their age or in school, hopefully they're in school, or whatever. So then they are committing crimes to get the money to pay for it. Is that true? I mean, it's just
Absolutely.
this vicious cycle.
And that's how it impacts. That's how it impacts our local, our city, because it's burglaries generally, and
They're just
thefts
trying to
from
get their hands
cars,
on what? What are they trying to get the most of?
Cash.
anything they can sell.
Cash.
And cash. I mean, that's the bottom line. So it's a thorny, very difficult problem.
With
So I guess a friend of mine and I were talking about this the other day. I would have no idea how to go purchase something illegal. But I guess if you're a bad guy, or if you're that's what your thing is.
an addict. I
it's-
mean,
it's
if you
pretty
need it
easy
that
to
bad.
get. I mean, so you can just
It is. I mean, it's common, and that's in most communities. If you know,
yeah. I mean,
if you know
I
the
guess,
underworld, you can definitely get in there and get it. And
so we
you
just
know,
have it here, and they can just.
It's
and
here.
So if they
It's-
get the cash, they,
it's everywhere.
Yeah, I know
mean,
that.
that's the
Yeah,
thing. It's
yeah,
not, some communities have, like I'll give you an example. The DC metropolitan area was mostly cocaine.
Mm-hmm.
There was a lot less availability of heroin. Here, it's exactly the opposite. So it just depends.
whatever sort of in fashion,
Or
or the
historical.
availability. Yeah.
Even. And I'm learning about the historical piece of that
Mm-hmm.
in Greenville, and that for many, many years in North Carolina, Greenville and Wilmington were the markets for heroin, specifically.
Wow. And
Well,
why?
and that really does do everything to boost our crime. I mean, that is what makes
it's
the
all
crime
relative.
rate
Yeah. I mean,
soar.
it's yeah.
And we're on top of it. I mean, we are able to make lots
Will
of
you
arrests.
ever have
but
enough?
We can't arrest our way out of this
Yeah,
problem.
I know. I mean, will you ever have enough staff to overcome this?
He's an
that's
optimist.
why I'm really interested in the public health aspect of it for the non-distributors. For the distributors, we're ready for them, and we are very effective. We're seizing record numbers.
Yeah, I mean, you
of
hear it
kilos.
you read it in the paper, and you're like,
Absolutely.
sweet, and you get excited, and then you're like, okay, in the next couple of weeks, there's another
There's
major
another one.
bust.
But you
And
know
that-
what? I
and
think
it-
over time,
that's what's
over
so
time,
disturbing.
they may start going around us.
Maybe.
And that's really
Would they
all
just
we
go to
can-
another community?
I
or
know, but we
I mean, I definitely want it out of my community. Y'all just keep on busting.
Well,
but
and,
I mean,
and Dr. Ames sounded so positive about the actual rate of curing. I mean, you know that people are. What did he say? That they used to tell parents, just forget about your child
Right.
if they're hooked on these heroines and opiates, and now they are actually rehabilitating them successful.
absolutely.
And that's positive. So what you're saying about the public health part, if we can get some of these people that aren't truly the distributors and the ones that are part of these bad rings, if we can just get the people that are just hooked on the drugs healed.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it sounds simple, I guess.
No, but I mean, you're absolutely right, and that's a part that's very misunderstood. There is treatment, and it works. If someone comes in and genuinely wants to be treated
Dr.
for their
Ames
addiction,
said better than
they
ever.
can do it.
It's
Absolutely.
working now. The drugs are good, and
but people have got to go and get that. You know what I mean? And it's like this problem to me is so much broader than I even really realize. Meaning that, you know, everybody always says, well, that would never happen in my home, or that would never happen in my neighborhood, or that would never happen in our schools.
everywhere.
It is all
everywhere.
levels. And until somebody really comes out and says, okay, my XYZ friend had to get help, or my XYZ daughter, or, you know, whatever it is. I mean, God forbid it happens to anybody, but I think maybe we're more open about it, or maybe that's what's needed, in that this can happen to anybody, no matter how educated you are or uneducated you are. We're all, you know, there's definitely those people that are going to be susceptible to it. And, you know, the teen pressure, the peer pressure and all that, yeah, try this. Well, it could be that very potent heroin that, and then boom, there. I don't know how you break that cycle.
Well, you know, speaking of cycle, let's talk a little bit about the cycle of addiction. So how does this all start? Well, it could start in various ways. You could go straight to heroin, but generally a lot of people, like now that's hitting suburbia everywhere, that's not how it starts. It starts with opiates that are in many of our homes.
Yeah, Dr. Ames
It starts
was,
with prescriptions that, you know, you
they can get their hands on easily.
You hurt your elbow and you have 5 days worth of, you know, one of the painkillers that's an opiate. I won't mention any brands, but one of those. So you have 5 days worth of, you know, pain medicine that you're supposed to take, but they give you 30 days worth of pills.
Right.
And those pills sit. And those pills, the longer they sit, someone is going to get them and cycle them. And once they take those pills and crunch them down and snort them, or some other way ingest them, that begins that process. That opiate is exactly like heroin. And heroin now at $3 to $6 a bindle, a dosage unit, is cheaper. It's cheaper than the pill. So this is the cycle of addiction between people going between opiate pills and actual heroin. Because, you know, I often used to wonder wow, what would make someone try heroin for the first time?
Right.
That seems so serious. That
Totally
seems so
wigs
off
me
the
out.
edge.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
such
I mean, that's crazy,
big
right?
deal.
But that's not how it happens. It
Yeah.
happens in a
No,
very
they get that
different
buzz
way.
first from the Percocet and the oxycodone and all those things, and
Yep.
feel that.
Creeps me out even
So
thinking
it's important
about
to get those medicines out of your homes. We just put in a secure drop box at the Greenville Police Department.
Oh, so now
It's
you don't have to
there.
wait for the day.
You don't have to wait for the day. You can bring it in and put it in there. We have a secured, the box is secured, but also our people that handle it have been vetted and secured. They're regularly drug tested, and only 2 people have the key to it. So it's
Interesting.
safe and secure. It's not
And
going
then
to
they
get back
dispose
out.
of them. I
They
mean,
under very, very controlled conditions, just like we dispose of other drugs. These drugs get packaged in there.
All right. We're going to be out of time in just a minute. So I wanted to kind of ask you, on a scale of 1 to 10, and break this down. On a scale of 1 to 10, how bad is the crime related to underage drinking? 1 to 10.
Underage drinking. Wow. I'd say probably a 5. I mean, the crime related to it, or
Yeah.
its occurrence.
Well, yeah, I know that would be a 10 probably.
Those are 2 different.
they are definitely. You're in a college
Well,
town.
since we're talking crime, we'll stick with the crime aspect of it.
I don't think it's very high.
Yeah.
I don't think it's very high at all. I mean, I would say maybe a 4,
Marijuana,
6.
heroin.
Heroin much higher because of burglaries and thefts, and the demand. So I would say
And how about violent crime associated
8.
with it?
Yeah.
Not much violent crime, unless you're dealing with traffickers, but not a whole lot. We're not seeing a whole lot with heroin.
And with the opiates?
Opiates, it's much more invisible. It's until it turns that
Yeah.
Right.
that you get there.
Wow. Well, I know y'all are doing a great job, and it is exciting, and it's a good moment when you can put it in the paper that you've had some drug busts and all those things. I know you want to have more of those, but
We hope to have nothing to put in the paper.
Well, this is true.
That's when we've
yeah,
That's a
when
good
we've
night.
done our jobs.
Yeah.
Yeah, when we just put
it
the
just stops.
Bless your heart.
Yeah.
right. Golly,
Amen for that. Bless your heart for trying
some of
hard.
that
I know.
should be investigated. Some people get really angry about stuff.
Well, and we as citizens and community members, we need to be reporting and be things that we're suspicious of, or call. And it might turn out to be a false alarm sometimes, but at least the awareness is there.
Yeah,
So.
trust your instincts. I mean, when we make great cases, it's because someone called and had a gut feeling about something, and we got there in time and acted on it. So, and you will never bother us. If you see something that just doesn't sit well with you, call us. We're
Yeah,
coming.
that is so true. And I think sometimes we're so apathetic to get involved, and we really need to.
And you can stay anonymous.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Well, thank you for coming in. I know you're a busy guy, and
Thank you.
I appreciate you coming in and discussing this not so great topic, but it is in our community, and we need to be more aware of it, and we need to discuss it and fix the problem. So,
Well, it's fast moving, and I'll keep you posted. This group with the Office of National Drug Control Policy staying together for about 2 years to try to advance that national.
okay, well, keep us
Direction.
posted on all the new information you get. So, all right, what's for dinner?